So we will have the third part of our conversation. Let's keep things British and say and move on. Quite simple to understand. We will have now the organization of system and methods and the institutional design for international security by NATO. We offer this portfolio to the NATO as industrial portfolio, even as white label effort or cooperation with the international community, advising you all the time. And guess what? You insist on it because you are untouchable. Then, and this number 4 will be the drug police on South America. Quite simple. I had this conversation with the West Department and top level and the CIA and the Interpol and others during the Trump administration. Consider the chairs at that period and maybe on with the IBM in the same way. And the design is quite simple. We will have the item number 5, which is the institutional design as Fibonacci. Fibonacci is a pattern that you have in mathematics considering this crap that you unfortunately must face, deal, and destroy. There are no guarantees as clandestine things, even if it's oil or something like this. But the difference between the drug and the oil when you destroy things is when you destroy the oil, indeed you can produce more oil immediately. And then you are kind of having and hitting the market to get oil. People will have more interest and lower recuse as offering oil. But drug is different. Anyone can, produce drugs. And when you destroy drugs, kind of you are beefing up this criminal industry. The model is quite simple. We had the situation at your accusation, which is against you, and by all facts proved and the research, you have no escape, you will be convicted. Sent to a prison 30 years on American or more by industrial crime and others, and have a boat with you all inside. And it's like this, you have the government, the cooperative area society. We had a model which was the east, the west, and the center. You remember this model have the east, the west, and the center. The connection side to side, the interconnection by the integration as side to side connected. This area here is the interconnected area that brings all connections inside, even if you are a single value, a side-to-side value, or an entire thing as value. It's something that goes like this, connecting everybody at this thing. Simple to understand. Then, we will check and make our movement like this. We must have a design, and face situations. We considering that the Mintzberg organization we can use in our company. For instance, the IBM have from the Unisys, the AT&T, and we had this design which was, have the areas affected, set a technical level considering the Federal Bureau of Investigation as a global company, and the staff as international, which can be the OECD, the NATO, the Interpol, and they will check things inside the company. Was one model, and we had a model before, and IBM suggested to put the FBI at the middle, have the observation and the interface between the top, which implies the board group, and the CAO, which is in general a big star, and the bottom, which make things work mostly all the time and have not always the most fair conditions. And during this period, we consider a huge effort to bring them to the reality. Have the decreasement of gains and at the top, and the increasement at the bottom to balance things and put at the zero, avoiding turbulence inside the company, offering a nightlife or something like this. So they talk a lot of things, and you observe it about things talked by them. All this was made. And of course that we only have in the oligarchy in the way we had if you have the opportunity walking through a system of justice all around the globe using a global company. For instance, the IBM plus peers doing contracts with fraud scams and a lot of things. And then you complain at the system. And the system has this kind of failure that you are presenting. Do you consider that this company and the others with this kind of behavior and orientation which can be run as a driver will obtain tax privilege and other things? Of course that this is not as something that will be forever, or we will be doing something like this, and it's not our purpose, run a hurricane. But since you have the star, boiling scene, come on in. Then we will have a model like this. It is, I can have a hierarchical design in kind of two areas, that has presenting equally sovereignty about things. For instance, the East, the West, and the Center. Then we do a regression: the East Europe, the Center Europe, the Western Europe, and things go on and on and on until you have, for instance, your local criminal scam as your family A, family B, family C. Simple to get. The model is like this. If you are a council of peers and you are all equals in sovereignty and legitimacy to claim your rights, indeed you are a steering committee. And there's only one on present time which is presented as a moral entity charging you criminal offense as pandemic crime, organized by the interaction as systemic crime, going for systematic and systemic organization as structural failures from institution with specific checks that can cover these or have the coverage by them, and indicates the storage money to be used to cover this charge. This is not a punishment, but you can suffer a seizure against you since you act as a debtor in not good faith. It's not wrong to be a debtor, but it's a fraud, have the misuse of all things you did to do not have the payment of your creditor. And we will have this as a slice of pizza. And no one is selfish. Please. So, we will check that you will have the West, the East, a face kind of upset, but we will have the Center. Now the face is kind of worried. It's a British town. So, we will check that now. We had, for instance, the event Ukraine. Really? Yeah, we did. And it's the Ukraine. Ukraine would like to be independence or something like this, or fight to sustain this, which is not attached at the Russia anymore. And then we have the Talibans. But the Talibans, I will put just that to be the tabulation. Talibans. Then, but the Talibans kind of has a development as resulting which do not seem very equal to Ukraine. It means that something not, acceptable, despite they are kind of claiming the same thing. And as I told you before, I have the right as compensation, and I'm doing this in the limit of my right. I'm not claiming your death, despite sometimes you deserve to be killed. But you will not be killed by this, but by the aggressions and other things considered the warfare that maybe you violate, for instance, the American Constitution if they have the death penalty, and the capital punishment will suffer this. You will have your death by other way with legitimacy to do this. Or, and if you insist at this by the Brazilian Constitution on Article 5, Item 5, I can have the protection as constitutionalism, setting, for instance, a building as the highest, the top, most, highest skyscraper at the globe has with a rooftop. Maybe it's something for imagination that will be on so high that the rooftop will be in an area that has no jurisdiction. It's a neutral area as jurisdiction. And this will bring from the top to the bottom, and we can bomb this building. But before you do this, you can have this, for instance, at the airplane, having a chairs and a procedure with authority, with special types of legitimacy to ask things for you, and have the information that they need, or we all. And the design of steering committee goes like this. We had the situation presented as East, the West, the East, and the Center. And the Taliban's I think that they are requiring to be a nation. But how are they doing this? By deal and things that have legitimacy to claim this right? It's something not acceptable. So they can continue like they can have the continue like this. But if they change their mind and do things properly, in the way sometimes they show that have this interest and do not do the terrible things that they are doing, that it's something that you can accept. And if you accept the arguments as Ukraine and the NATO support the Ukraine, of course that by equity we can have this maybe engulfed as NATO extra ally, for instance, but have in mind that NATO do not have the obligation as act by equity, because the NATO is not a court. It's an organization of society, which isn't only military, but society, to protect each other as nation and sovereignty and other. But we can even consider maybe engulf this area as Taliban, since they act properly by law, or considering have a constitution, or respecting others, and claim the issues that they consider a right in the limits of the right accepted in all areas. For instance, if they set themselves ready to the show against the corruption, which is a crime in all areas, even at this area which is a not form a nation yet, will be an argument to form a nation as the premise, which is do not have the corruption. It will be a point to them. It's how things work by a simple analysis of this. In the same way, we have this as nemesis business presented all the time, and we have the development of a lot of things and crimes and aggression against me, and change, switch this lemon into a lemonade, put vodka, or the alcoholic thing that you need or like or love to have a friend. And we did this. But at your case, considering the 33 trillion, in an airplane with a neutral air, you have the heroin inside. Heroin. We have two models as heroin, for instance, the red eagle and the blue magic. And then you did request at the cyberspace, for instance. So this allowed us to track areas with interest on heroin. But heroin is the ruin of your life. As any of drug, but this is the ultimate thing to ruin your life. And if you are a criminal using the budget, of course that this will be presented at the money diverted. And we can track this by a model, a financial model, which goes as kickoffs as something random that you had this orientation. This kind of failure will be presented as a corrupted type of argument that your statement do not have the accomplishment of your legal system, the activism that you need point to negative one, the trending, cycling, and looping your accusation, you are all guilty. There's no escape. And after have this at the boat, the model that you are working is 70, 30, 80, 20, 90, 10. Fully model presented. We finish our presentation here. And the last thing was the drug police in South America. We'll have this one more time. We are having areas having the seizure of police as the seizure of drugs, but not having the information of who is financing this. In Brazil, for instance, it's made always by public department. Do you have any information about the origin of this resource? No. And we will consider as police, for instance, instead of burn this drug that is something that you do not have for sure that this happened, and then burning this, you kind of overheat the production of this. You did this with coffee in the 19th centuries in Brazil. We will have the drug sent back as a refund police, or a payback police, to the area that is the narco government producing this, and they will have kind of a buffering, or will not have the more production of drugs, which indeed is a problem for them. In the same way, it's better have real capitalism. And your operation seizuring drugs and with drug user inside, especially days before the carnival, indeed you are setting a gap at this item offered at the market, and you have a gap as diverted money on COVID-19. Do you consider that a gap between COVID-19 and a gap between this criminal scam is the integration trend into corruption inside the criminal system, and it's equally presenting to the threat managed by the law enforcement around the globe? Let's suppose that you like and you consider a new mafia, and this new mafia will supported by the ancient mafia that goes since the 7th centuries. And they put like this: I will have this scam, put this loser inside, offer them, have the privilege, and there will be no new mafia. It's an ancient thing. Let's suppose that go like the Borgias, goes like this. Do you consider that you are convicted? For sure you do. Have a nice night.